Hi, how's everyone doing today? It's Jamie here from EverLast Lighting, sitting down with Bryan Schultz, one of our regional sales managers. And on this quick webinar, we're going to spend some time talking about project management and how effective EverLast Lighting is at managing projects from massive to small, just a couple of lights. And no one better in our company to talk about project management with than Bryan. So, hey, good morning, Bryan. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Jamie.
Good.
Doing great, staying healthy.
Right. Yeah. It's we're working from home. We're not in our big production studio at EverLast this morning. We're in our homes comfortable, and we're just going to do this. Let's start talking about project management. So one of the things that I want to talk about with you, Bryan, I want you to explain to me how you manage the relationship of projects, both large and small. How do you manage the relationship between the installers and the end user on a big project or small project for that matter?
So communication's key. Communication is obviously can make or break the entire project there. There's so many moving parts. I'll use a large project, for instance, that we recently completed. Essentially, you had about 4 different moving parts. So you had the energy company who's providing the energy rebates, which usually have a very small window, typically 60 to 90 days. And then you have the end user who has an expectation to get the project done so they can start to see the benefit of energy savings. And then you have our side of it, the production side of it, to ensure that we can, scale our operation to meet the needs as far as on-time delivery and the logistics of it as well. And then on the other side, you have the installers and the recyclers, which are a whole another ball of wax they'll have to deal with. So
Sure.
Communication between all those groups is key. And then also, for instance, the job I'm speaking of was actually a large retail store. So they have their certain hours that they're working in. So they have limitations as far as when we can be in there. So making that connection with the installer and getting them comfortable, getting the end user comfortable with these people, in their stores and in their facilities. So a lot of it, what I would start with would be a 3-way call. I would have the end user and the installer on, mainly just the first step would be the introduction.
Sure.
Get to know, the people's names, the faces of the people that are going to be in their facilities there. So, making that connection with them, and that's kind of where we started.
It's good to hear that. It's funny. One of those little phrases or things that, I hear bouncing around the office. Well, when we were in the office, was that we're relationship managers at EverLast Lighting. We're more than just providing lights. We create this relationship both with the rep agencies who are watching this and the end users as well. And then you are acting as the intermediary, kind of making those introductions, getting everyone comfortable with the process and everyone understanding, where their expectations should be and when to expect things. So it's good to hear that. Yeah. Project management is it's a doozy. There's a lot of moving parts to it, like you said. And I think without someone like you or our other sales members, there to facilitate those relationships, it just doesn't work. So talking about that, you're talking about building these relationships. Are there any differences between, say, a new construction managing one of those versus like a retrofit project? I know we've done a lot of new construction, but we've also done quite a bit of retrofit as well. Do you see differences between those two?
Absolutely. Down to even the smallest things, as far as, so say, for instance, on most construction sites, it's madness. There's so much going on, and each team there, whether it's electricians, whether it's guys that are doing the drywall, parking lots, you have hundreds of people there. So first of all, just the safety of our product, making it there and making it to the right spot, not getting lost in the madness. And then also typically limited on hours. Most construction sites are a standard, 7 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever that time frame may be. So just making sure people are on site. So it's a very small window that you have to work in, but very, very strict instructions as well to make sure that, a month later they say, hey, where are my lights at? And they delivered here. And who knows, with so many moving parts in these construction sites, things can just walk off. So you got to make sure that, that you're getting it where it needs to be. Versus a retrofit project, typically it's more structured. For instance, again, I'll go back to the retail application I talked about. they have set hours, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. or somewhere in that range, and they have their structure set up, shipping and receiving, and they have the different areas more defined, as far as storage as well.
Sure.
So just little things like that you usually miss, that you wouldn't think of when it comes to the project side of it. So
Sure. So, speaking about that, I know we kind of were talking about, large projects, small projects, what do you think makes you and everyone else at EverLast Lighting, unique or successful or both in the large project space? Again, I know we kind of allude to this huge project that we've done that everyone probably knows us for. What made us so successful in that project from its initial start to where we're at now, still managing that massive project?
I always say attention to detail, and Alex, our vice president of sales, he always alludes to that we're small enough to carry yet large enough to handle your project, no matter the size. So it's one of those things. What that means, it sounds cliche, but what that means is with a smaller group like we are, communication can be handled so much easier. We're not spread out everywhere. So if it's something that I need assistance on, I can turn over to you or Cody or any of the guys there, and we can bounce ideas off each other in a quick manner. But a lot of it, again, attention to detail, and listening to the customer is the big key. So
Right, definitely. And it's funny, you mentioned size. We are a smaller company, and because of that smaller size, I always like to tell people it's a perk, it's a benefit. We're very nimble, and can you give examples of how being nimble has helped us throughout projects?
yeah. So again, allude back to the project there. Essentially, we had a schedule laid out. I mean, this is 300 locations that we're shipping lights to, and you have a set schedule. And with all these moving parts, again, I'll go back to recyclers, installers. For instance, one of the groups, they're installing out of Ohio. Another group is installing out of Minnesota. And then you set a schedule out where these locations were stretching all the way as far as Wyoming and as far east as Pennsylvania. So it's a very wide range. And when you lay out a schedule at the beginning and you have a set, these guys are looking at a map, they're mapping everything out. I have, on the recycling side of it, I have dumpsters delivered on a set date. And then at the 12th hour, we learned, and here's one of the other 4 links in the chain that I discussed earlier. One of the things we would have never thought of, the energy company actually ran out of rebate dollars. So you have this entire schedule laid out, and we're getting ready to get started, and we get a call, hey, well, we're going to go ahead and postpone these 30 sites, and you can obviously imagine what that would do.
Yeah.
When these installers have things mapped out, flights booked.
Sure.
So, the communication, again, going back to the communication side of it is key. And what I mean by that, as far as being nimble, is I'm scrambling. We have things built. We're ready to ship out to these locations. We have guys out in the factory building away. And the nimble side of it, when I say that, I run out and I say, hey, we got to put everything on hold for a moment. We need to restructure our schedule and then look at everything. So, that flexibility, and it comes back to the size side of it, the nimbleness of the company. So it's definitely a benefit.
Yeah, I've witnessed that firsthand. I've seen where something has to be put on hold because of a logistics issue. It's usually on the other side of the sales, and it's not necessarily something in our ball court that had to incur this change, but it's pretty amazing to watch our manufacturing floor go from full-blown production on one project, get the word that this has to move out 2 weeks because there's a delay in construction or something delayed the project, and watch the entire crew reconfigure workstations, move what they were currently working on into like a holding pattern or queue or hold area, and then jump into the next project so they can push other projects forward. And then when the time comes to flip, everything just goes right back into spot really smooth. You don't see that in a big factory. Big factories, it's weeks and weeks and weeks of planning. If something like that happens, I mean, it's literally throwing the monkey wrench in the gears and everything starts to fall apart. But
yeah, the relationship's key too, because there's the human element to all this as well too. So when you have somebody so focused on doing one thing, and then you come out and you say, hey, stop everything, stop the presses, and let's start over. Obviously, you have the human element. So, being a company like our size, our closeness to each other as well. That's one of those things where, the human element comes in, and you got to, again, managing relationships. I guess that's
right.
Managing relationships. So.
It's a very good point, because EverLast is a small company, and because everyone works so closely together, you have sort of this, I'm going to say, a family feeling there, because everyone does know everyone else on such a personal basis that it's easy to go out when you have to tell them, hold on, we're going to shift gears. You're going to have to spin this and we're going to start working on something different. There's never anxiety. It's always just everybody's working as a team. And it's good that we have that element within EverLast Lighting, because that means that everyone out there who's watching this, their projects get that kind of attention and that kind of commitment, the willingness to put in the extra mile to make sure everything gets done for you as it should be.
And like you said, so I know we've alluded a lot to large projects on this, but whether this is a 1-piece order or whether it's a 1 million piece order, whatever it may be, you're going to get that same attention. So that's always, the attention to detail and the same, communication aspect. So the same service across the board.
Right. It's a good message. It's a good thing that I think everyone out there that's watching this needs to hear and understand that this isn't something that we preach. It's what we practice.
Yep.
And I guess with that, we can probably end today's webinar on project management. I would definitely encourage those watching this, if you have questions about anything when it comes to managing your next project, Bryan or anyone else in the sales department, they're all well-versed and well-experienced in project management to this level. So feel free to reach out at any time. And Bryan, hey, thanks for joining me from home. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and look forward to the next webinar with you.
You too, Jamie. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.